Good evening. Can you hear me in the back? Welcome, and thank you for braving the weather today to come to hear our graduates speak. These are 5 people who spent a great deal of time and energy to show you the things that they've got here tonight. And I have to say at the outset, what we've asked them to do is a little bit unfair. Most of them are graphic designers, and graphic designers don't do work that's typically meant to be seen in a gallery. And so I want to point out that some of these things, they might not look like gallery work, but that's not what they're about. So they'll tell you all about it. There's food afterwards, and just around the corner there are 3 computers set up because website design is a part of what we're doing. And we have 3 people who are showing their work in that arena as well. So I will let most of them introduce each other, but first we're going to start out with Karee Henrich.
Hello. As Andy said, my name is Karee Henrich, and I'm a senior graphic design major here at Bethany. And you know that feeling when you're reading a book or you're watching a show or a movie and you see all these things add up and the character is totally oblivious, and then there's that moment where all of a sudden it all clicks and it's so obvious that this thing is there, the mystery's been solved, the problem's figured out, it's all right there. Well, that's kind of how I felt when I discovered graphic design. Now, I say discovered, but it wasn't like I didn't know what it was, because I definitely did. I paid close attention to logos, signs, and layouts as a kid, and I had strong feelings about the 2007 Shopko rebrand. Rest in peace. I just never really realized that there was a specific person who got to do all of that. I thought best case scenario that there was somebody that, they had this normal desk job, but then every once in a while they got picked to do like a really cool artsy project, and I wanted to be that person, but I didn't think that was an entire job. Too good to be true. What I did know was that I loved to be creative, and I loved to make things. And as a kid, I would fill sketchbooks with drawings, cover sidewalks in chalk, and build mismatched Lego worlds, all the while my family was right behind me. Art was no less important than math or science in my house, and my family showed that with their words and their actions. They encouraged me, sent me to art camps, and proudly hung up my creations around our home and at their work. But where I really grew in the arts was at my high school, MBL. It was here where I learned about oil paint for the first time. It was here where I first threw a bowl on the wheel, and it was here that I first used Photoshop. But what might have been the most memorable design experience from high school was my time with our school newspaper. I volunteered to do the layout of the paper, and I remember being so frustrated at my teacher, Mr. Jasperson, because he made me use InDesign to do it. I asked him if I could just do it all in Photoshop, thought it'd be way easier. It's the only program I knew how to use, but he said, no, you have to teach yourself InDesign. And I was so mad, but I did it, and it was okay. And, it got to a point where I thought, okay, this isn't so bad. I think I'm doing a good job. And then my chemistry teacher told me that he thought my designs were lowbrow. So, I thought, maybe he's joking, I hope, but that wasn't going to stop me. I tried harder, I took his feedback in stride, and worked to make them better. Yet, I still didn't really think about graphic design as a career. Instead, I decided to pursue art education when I got to college because I knew art schools mattered, and I've been so impacted by the teachers in my life. So, when I finally took my first education class here at Bethany, it just so happened I was signed up to take Graphic Design 1 that same fall. And I don't want to spoil any surprises, but one of those classes worked out better than the other. I remember that fall for advising day, I went to my advisor, Andy's office, and I was like, I don't know about art education, I don't think it's a thing for me, but I don't know what to do, and I want to have a plan. And he conveniently told me that, oh, Bethany's starting a graphic design major, you should think about it. And in that moment, that was like the moment from the movies and the books where all of a sudden everything clicks, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to be a graphic designer. Like, of course, I'm going to be the one that makes logos and billboards, and I'm going to make them beautiful. So, from that day on, I have jumped headfirst into this new world. I have piled my proverbial plate full of opportunities with anything that comes my way. Classes, internships, etc. And I'm so thankful I've done that. And as much as the design-specific classes and opportunities have pushed me, I owe a lot to the bonus experiences that came along the way. the classes that exposed me to literature and avant-garde film, and those that educated me in the timeline of art history and physically brought me to places like Italy and New York, and just all the moments that pushed me from my comfort zone. All these experiences worked together to make me a better designer and a more well-rounded individual. That said, I suppose this show is my chance to show that to you, or to prove it to you. So this fall, I had some good brainstorming sessions about what I could create to show you all who I am and what I'm capable of. And that's how I decided on the first of my 2 projects here today, Sweet. And those are the ones kind of like clustered along the walls in these matted frames. And so Sweet is a care package company of my own invention. And basically, I love acts of kindness and I love snail mail. So by combining those things with the ease of online shopping and the ability to deliver intentional, thoughtful joy to someone's mailbox, Sweet was born. With Sweet, you're able to send a small care package to someone's door with a click of a button. There are packages for specific situations, good or bad, sweet or sour, or the generic in-between options too. They come with fun gifts that are cool and useful enough that you won't throw them away the next day. They come with things that fit the situation, like patterned socks, delicious candies, topical vinyl stickers, and colorful pens, to name a few of the options. And I've loved working on this project because it's given me the chance to completely call the shots. I decide what the company is, what they sell, how they sell it, and the best part, how it all looks. So, this has been a fun time to show all my design abilities, my marketing skills, as well as push myself with 3D rendering too, which has been fun. But like I said before, I like to pile my plate full of opportunities, so my capstone was no different. And last fall, I was asked to help design this stuff for the 7th annual Speechless Film Festival. And that's a weekend filled with breathtaking short films and narratives. And honestly, I would be so bold to say that it is one of, if not the best thing that happens in Mankato each year. Anyway, I was asked to step in and help with the designs while the usual designer and festival programming director, Amanda Quist, was on maternity leave. So, beginning in January, I started playing around with concepts and spent a lot of time looking at the designs of previous years. Because with this project, not like Sweet, I wanted my design to complement the existing brand and style. I love the use of natural elements combined with abstract and symbols of the trade, and I was exploring how I could balance all of these in my own unique design. And after many emails between Amanda and I, the design came to be what you see along that back wall there. Now, what I really loved about this experience was the tangibility of it. With classes, we spend so much time on projects that might only live on our hard drives or at best our websites. But this, Speechless, was an opportunity to see all my designs used, which was really cool. From passes to banners, I had my fingerprints all over the 2-day festival, and it was really fun to see. And maybe that just comes back to why I love graphic design so much in general. There's this commercial goal. You want to see what you make be utilized and to be helpful. And to actually see it be used and appreciated is such a rewarding feeling. To see that poster tacked on that bulletin board, or people wearing your t-shirt, or events coming to life because of your signage. These moments fill me with such delight, and they're what make me excited to be a designer in the future. And of course, I would be nowhere without the help of the community God has blessed me with. So I want to say thank you to my parents, Renee and Joel, to my grandparents and my family especially, for always encouraging me and being my #1 supporters from the days of Legos and figure paint. And thank you to my friends for giving me honest feedback and support, and thank you to Michael for the same, and for surprising me with coffee when I locked myself in the studio for hours on end. Thank you to everyone who's entrusted me to create something for you at any point in my design career. Your belief in me is so exciting. And of course, the deepest of thank yous to my professors and mentors here at Bethany. Professor Bukowski, Mr. J, Kurt, Eric, Angie, Lissa, Juana, Andy, and Amanda. You have believed in me since I got here and have always gone the extra mile in pushing me to be my best and providing me with the resources and the chances to grow. And there isn't enough thank yous in the world to tell you what all of your unconditional support means to me. I don't even think there's a sweet care package that could cover it. But God is so good, and I am humbled at the blessings He has given me, especially to the gift of you all. Thank you. And now I'm excited to introduce a dear friend of mine, a lady with with a sense of humor and a vocabulary that puts me to shame, the talented designer and illustrator, Madelaine Cordes.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. Oh, just get closer. I'd like to start by giving a little background about myself. I grew up moving around a lot because of my dad's profession. He's a pastor. And I credit a lot of that to why I'm so close with my family. My siblings and my parents, we're really tight-knit, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that when you're moving around a lot, your only constant is your family, and through those experiences, you grow close with each other. So I come from a very artistically inclined family as well. My parents are both singers, and my mother's a musician as well, and my siblings all dabble to varying degrees in music and art, although some do more than dabbling because that was like their major, so. But they're all incredible artists in their own rights. And so growing up, I was exposed to a lot of art and expression through art. I too went through the phase of naively thinking that my older siblings were the coolest humans in the world. I mean, they still are. And so I wanted to emulate everything they did. And this meant that if my older sister wanted to be a fashion designer, obviously I did too. And if my brother wanted to be a marine biologist, I did too. And in my defense, both of those professions did sound pretty cool anyway. It wasn't just me making an attempt to try to be like them. But I soon realized that I really did love fashion and I wanted to pursue it. And even as a little 4-year-old, I loved dresses, and I was always wearing them any chance I could get. And that eventually moved into my drawings, and I would make sketches of dress designs. However, I soon realized that the fashion industry can be pretty brutal, that I wasn't sure I had the right personality to navigate that. And so I was kind of at a loss as to what I wanted to do for a career move, and that also had like a good career outlook and also had the creativity that I craved. And I ended up taking some graphic design classes in my last couple years of high school, and while I wasn't particularly talented at figuring out the technology, I mean, to be honest, I still struggle with that. But I enjoyed the creative aspects enough to put up with the downfalls of that. And the encouragement from my teacher didn't hurt either. And I didn't really consider graphic design as a career until after high school. After graduating, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I didn't want to shell out money for college without at least having some direction of where I was going. So I was also just plain terrified at the aspect of going to college. So I took a little time off, and then we moved to Minnesota, which was a huge upheaval. And so I was working here, and at 21, I was still kind of struggling to figure out my life, and I just felt kind of stuck. And it was at this point that my younger sister, Jemima, had decided to apply to Bethany and strongly encouraged me to join her. And that was what really gave me the final push I needed to move forward. And it's one of the best decisions I ever made. I can see that I've grown so much in confidence, and also I've learned so much here. And although I'm under no illusions as to how little I still know, obviously, but as my senior year rolled around here, I was completely uncertain as to what my senior project would consist of, and a wise person forced me to come up with a giant list to help kickstart ideas. But things still weren't really coming together for me, and I became attached to the idea of contrasting two disparate ideas. I love the idea of maybe doing ads for modern items like electric toothbrushes, and then contrasting that in the style of the Victorian ads you would see in like newspapers. Eventually, I hit on the Arrested Development idea and kind of went from there, which I'll explain more about after I talk about Arrested Development a little bit. So I'm sure some of you, or a lot of you, are familiar with the show, which stars Jason Bateman, Michael Cera, Portia de Rossi, and Jeffrey Tambor, to name a few. And for those of you who are not familiar, allow me to attempt to give you a brief idea of what the show is about. A son is forced to take over his father's real estate business after his father is imprisoned for embezzlement. And while this may sound straightforward enough, the son also must do damage control with his eccentric and extremely dysfunctional family. And what sets this show apart from so many other comedies is the incredibly tight writing. The story is just woven masterfully with these ongoing jokes throughout the entire series, and as well as little delightful details just sprinkled in there throughout. And it's one of the rare shows that is almost better the second time around than the first time because you pick up on so many more details when you see it. The reason for my choosing to base much of my work around the show's material is that I often gravitate toward what I consider clever humor, the kind of humor that has layers and is nuanced, which sounds super pretentious, but and I love to laugh, I mean, who doesn't? And it's something that is even better when it can be shared with others. And so the other half of this body of work is inspired by the great artist Alphonse Mucha, who is part of the Art Nouveau movement that gained popularity right around the turn of the 20th century. And Mucha's work was distinctively stylized and very decorative, and is often associated with the theatrical posters he did of a famous actress at the time, Sarah Bernhardt. And his pieces are often very simplistic in some ways, and also highly detailed and illustrative. And even before I knew about the Art Nouveau movement, I was drawn to the style. I remember being quite young and always doodling these swirly designs, kind of. And I can actually pinpoint the exact moment that I became so drawn to the swirls. I was in first or second grade, clothing from the 1910s, which is right around the time of the Art Nouveau movement. So you may ask, why combine two such incredibly different things like a modern comedy show and a classic style of art? Well, originally I was going to do a series of illustration, as I mentioned, featuring models in the style of Mucha's, but the models would be using various modern and mundane items. I even considered doing an ad campaign for like Gillette, where the models would be like shaving their armpits or shaving their legs. And I just enjoyed the notion of the contrast that would create. However, after presenting some of my ideas to the faculty, I received some suggestions to pull in something people could relate to more emotionally, such as something from pop culture, which led to the Arrested Development idea. And I love the idea of illustrating some of the characters in such a particular and ornate style, something that evokes class as opposed to what the characters themselves evoke. Granted, the characters come from what would generally be considered a high-class world, but the ways in which they behave are anything but. And I love the additional level of humor that would create, and I also love the opportunity that it would provide me in terms of being able to weave various references and jokes into the pieces and kind of try to emulate the show that way, because there are so many details in the show. I wanted to put in those little surprises for people to find that had seen the show. And even if they didn't see the show, I wanted the pieces to just be kind of fun and have a playful sense about them. I knew that taking on the entire group of main characters would be far too ambitious, so I went with the suggestion of illustrating the adult siblings of the Bluth family: Buster, Joe, Lindsay, her husband Tobias, and Michael. And each of them has a very distinct personality, which I tried to match up with a specific piece by Alphonse Mucha. After I found a piece for each character, I had a sort of template that I could work off of then, and I sketched out designs for each of the characters, keeping the basic look of the original work while changing up the poses and clothing as necessary. The clothing was probably one of the hardest parts, simply because modern clothing does not lend itself to that billowing and flowing nearly as much as the dresses from the turn of the century. And the same can be said for hairstyles, or lack thereof in some cases, especially in the cases of male characters. And the other major difficulty was seamlessly weaving the various symbolic objects pertaining to each character into the piece so that they looked like they truly belonged there. Needless to say, this entire process has been a huge learning experience. I'd like to quickly thank everyone who's shown support, my friends with their endless encouragement, my family, special shout out to Mom and Dad for taking my panic calls, my professors for their patience with my time management struggles, and for their very helpful feedback and mentorship. I value each and every one of you and the roles you play in my life. Obviously, God gets the ultimate thank you, being as He is the one who gave me my abilities and makes all things possible. And thank you to all of you for braving the weather tonight. Now, if you will please welcome Fallon Yates.
So I'm the odd person out. I am not a graphic design major. I am a photographer. And basic start is, if you know me, there's two things that you clearly know about me. Is I do photography and I like being outside. So it's been, I was always outside, and even when I wasn't outside, I was creating something. I was either drawing, coloring, or sculpting on Play-Doh. I was making something always. When I was younger, I remember at a time when I was living with my grandparents, I would get my hands on some disposable cameras and use them all up. And some of them are not developed, and I cringe at thinking what could be on there. As I continued to grow and play with cameras, I took a media class during middle school. And this was when I first kind of understood the idea of photography and taking pictures as an art. I didn't quite understand it until that moment, but at that moment I knew I loved it and I was hooked. I continued to learn about photography through the only photography class that we had in my high school, and I eventually received a small digital camera that I would just use a ton. Also while in high school, I also had the opportunity to travel to Paris and London through an art club. During my trip to Paris, there was a picture that I took out of the thousands of pictures that I took. There was that one picture that I just loved, and it was in the Paris catacombs, and it just, how it was presented and cropped, I thought it was so unbelievable good, and it's just I don't even know that much about photography, and I have this small digital camera that's not even that professional, but I just loved how it looked, and from there it's I could do this as a career if I tried and pushed myself. Shortly after that trip, I was taking pictures of the fall colors at in the Mississippi River when I fell in and lost my camera. Luckily, I was able to save the SD card and I kept all those pictures, but the camera was gone. But lucky for me, my father and my mother both had DSLR cameras that I was allowed to use with their permission to take pictures of whatever I want. Usually it was hockey or animals at the zoo or just whatever, landscapes or whatever that I choose. The spring of my senior year, I decided to attend Bethany Lutheran College to further my education, and from that moment, I knew I was going to do studio arts for photography. Clearly, that did not change. During my first year, I learned a lot of good and great information. I learned so much from my professors, from art history that I've never really got introduced. This is my first time taking formal art classes besides the mandatory ones that you take in high school. And just learning all of these new things, learning how to create good design, what makes a good picture, what makes bad pictures, and also just what makes what art is. And those skills were about to be put to good use. The following summer of 2017, I went on vacation with my dad to Yellowstone National Park, and I took at least 1,000, if not 1,500 photos. And when I returned that fall, I entered one of those photos. It was very much like my Paris trip, just that one photo from that one trip. I entered that photo into the Photography Forum 30th Annual Best of College 2018 contest. I received a letter that following February saying that my photo was an honorable mention. Basically, what that means is that that photo was in the top 100 of over 12,000 submissions of college students all over the nation. And from there, that was just more validation of this is what I'm supposed to do. Last summer, that photo was published in a collection of all the photos of the honorable mentions and the winners in the Photography Forum 38th Annual Best of College 2018. So when it came to my capstone, it was clear to decide that I'm going to stick with my medium of photography, of course, and stick to the subject that I know best, and that pertained to being outdoors. I didn't want to do landscapes because I felt they're kind of simple and basic, and I wanted to push myself a little bit more, so I decided to do wildlife. And it took a while before I figured out what my subject was really going to be, but I settled eventually on birds for two main reasons. One, they're easy to find, and two, they're year-round. Which, of course, that becomes a big help when you have snowy days like it is today. So usually, when I go on a shoot, I try to be very observant of my surroundings, and it takes a while to just sit and wait for a bird or for something to happen. And from there, you kind of look around and you can kind of see the environment, and usually what I would see was trash and litter. And eventually that kind of concept played in to my capstone. And I thought of making a contrast of between the like beautiful birds and the grungy litter, and just create a contrast of between the two. And while I was doing this project, I kind of noticed how the subjects can be symbolic in a way. I'd like to talk about the two personal pieces that I feel like you can see them the most in, is the freedom and the scorched leaves in the back. Freedom shows a bald eagle, and of course most of you know that the eagle is our national bird and usually represents freedom, hence the name. The eagle in my photo is in mid-flight, flying away somewhere new, or returning to a place it once was. Either way, the bird decides its own path. It is free. I partnered this photo intentionally with the scorched leaves because of the two conflicting symbols. What I mean by this is scorched leaves shows a cigarette butt that shows actual harm to the environment from the burnt leaves. The symbolism here is that the cigarettes are addictive, and the person does have a choice to smoke, but at the same time is a slave to the addictive nicotine. The human is not free of that addiction. You can continue to see that theme kind of going hand in hand, especially with Meadow Clark as well as Drunken, the addiction of drinking, and, well, again, the free of the bird. From all of those pieces, you can see how, like, birds may be able to fly away and have an attempt to escape from this litter, but no matter where it lands, there's always going to be more. And there's no escape from the human waste we have caused. The subject of birds are used to draw attention to this issue and create a contrast between the two photos. My work is about the problems of the threat that evades nature, and I want my work to continue to show the issues of human contamination. I also want to start a discussion about these issues and hopefully throw out some possible solutions to lessen these threats. Of course, the first is properly recycle and do the best we can to be green, but there's problems with that. We all have sin, and even though God has commanded us to not only rule over the earth, but to tend to it, we fall short of that. So I want to thank some people. Of course, I want to thank my professors for them teaching me so much and giving me the knowledge that I have. Again, like, I didn't take any art classes from when, like, major art classes from when I started here to where I am now, so I've grown tons over the past 3 years, so thank you. I want to thank my friends, because every time when I had, like, freaking out or a mental breakdown of, like, I don't think I can do this, I'm not going to be able to graduate, I'm going to fail, like, they were always there to listen to me, and it's like, we believe in you, calm down, we'll figure it out, and I always did. Of course, I want to thank my family, especially the ones that aren't here, because I want to make sure that you guys know that it's okay. I want my family to be safe, so don't worry about not being here. And of course, my mom and my dad, again, for letting me use your cameras. You could totally decide whether I was going to continue this path or crush it right then and there. And I don't know, and of course, I don't know how many people and parents will allow their 18-year-old daughter to go to New York with their camera, like my mom did. And of course, my dad, I used his camera when I was in Yellowstone to take my photos, so thank you. Welcome Nicole Baker for the graphic.
Hi everybody, I want to thank you all for coming out, even though it's not so great out there. My name is Nicole Baker, and I typically go by Nikki. I'm actually from Mankato, and I've lived here for almost all my life. I've had a couple of times when I lived out of town, but I always came back. And something other than my location that's really stayed consistent for me has always been my ambition for art. I really can't remember a time when art wasn't like the focus of my life. It wasn't the thing that I wanted to do. I'd literally throw anything else away as long as I could keep art. And it was awesome because I could do it anywhere. It was really cool. I could do it at home. I could do it outside. I could do it in class when I probably should be taking notes. So I suppose you could probably guess what kind of grades I was getting if I was drawing a lot in class. So I really didn't take school seriously for quite a while. It took probably until my junior year in high school when I really started to take school seriously, not just my art classes that I thought were fun. And the reason why this kind of came to me is because I figured, well, if I want to do art, if I want an art career, I should probably go to college. And the really weird thing is that colleges like students that have good grades in all their classes, so I kind of had to pull it together. One thing that really helped was I was able to take a lot of art classes at my college, or at my high school though, so that was awesome. I was able to take drawing and woodworking, even an art metals class, which was making jewelry. And then once I kind of got back on track and really seriously considered going to college, I really talked with my dad and got advice from him, and really we decided together that I wanted to go to Bethany, which was awesome because it's in town. That was great for me. I was able to stay at home with my dad and my pets. I was kind of worried he might ditch the pets if I headed out. And then the other great thing about Bethany is if anyone knows too much about Bethany, it's pretty small, but that's really great. I love the small class sizes and really getting that individual time for my professors to kind of help me guide my way. And then for me, like even in high school, I kind of knew that I wanted to do graphic design. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do or where I wanted to do it. It was just I knew graphic design was going to be the path that I was choosing. So when I got accepted here at Bethany, I initially kind of declared my major as a media arts, because that's kind of what most people do if they were going to do graphic design. That was the choice at the time. So I'm taking my media arts classes, and I kind of realized that my heart wasn't really in it, and I was kind of torn between studio art and media arts. And kind of the difference there is studio art is more like the drawing, the painting, ceramics, that sort of hands-on kind of art. And then media arts was things like video production and editing and broadcasting, and typically did graphic design as well. But other than graphic design, that was kind of the only thing I was really interested in, so I was kind of confused. What do I do? Because I couldn't fit it all in my schedule. But luckily I have some great professors here who really gave me advice and kind of directed me and told me that I would be able to actually do a studio art major, but still emphasis in graphic design, which is really awesome. I'm so thankful that I was able to talk to them and realize what I really wanted to do. And then once I started continuing to pursue courses with my new path, I was a lot more satisfied than I was when I was initially taking my media arts classes. There's two parts that I kind of realized that I liked the most while taking classes here at Bethany, which would be web design and then digital painting. Those are two classes that I've taken so far, and they really just stuck out to me, so I kind of decided those were the two things that I was going to do for my senior capstone. So the two parts is, one is a website that's dedicated to soap making, and then the other part is a character concept designs. So the soap making is kind of something I've been interested in a while as like a hobby kind of thing. I always thought it was cool, and when I was thinking about a theme for my website for a capstone, soap really just kind of stuck out to me, and I initially really wanted to make my own soap because I thought that would be really awesome. But I tried a couple of times, and it was a lot harder than I thought it would be. It's really, really timing based and really, really temperature based, and it probably would be helpful to have like a second person, and I did not have that. So I scrapped that idea, still did the soap website though, so I kind of collected a large assortment of soaps, bath bombs, and bath salts, recipes that you can make at home so anyone can make them. Maybe someday I'll get back around and make some of the ones that I picked. And then for the character concept designs, they're actually based off of a real-life game called Starfinder, which is an RPG or role-playing game. So it was released in August of 2017, so it's pretty recent, and it's created by a company called Peso. And the reason why I kind of picked this as my topic is because, for one, I kind of like games in general, and video games, that kind of thing has always really interested me. And I actually know a group of people who are playing Starfinder right now, so that really sparked my interest initially. So 3 of the 5 character designs that I've made were based off of characters who are playing the game right now, and then the other 2 were kind of constructed. And then a little bit of background on like RPGs, for anyone who doesn't know, are role-playing games, and typically you would have a group of people or friends, and then you would have one DM or GM, which would be your game master or dungeon master. So that person is kind of like your storyteller. They're in charge of the story, and they kind of lead everyone else through it. And then only the GM knows that the trajectory of the story. Everyone else is really they're role-playing to kind of make decisions and go with the path that their GM is laying for them. And then this game takes place in space, ergo the name is called Starfinder. And it's more of a sci-fi rather than a fantasy game. And Starfinder is actually the sequel to another game called Pathfinder. And they're essentially the same type of game with a few different mechanics. The biggest difference is when and where they take place. Pathfinder takes place on a planet called Valorion. This planet would be similar to Earth, you know, land, water, inhabitants. And then the biggest difference is Starfinder actually takes place thousands of years into the future, where that planet, Valorion, actually disappears. So it's 2 different storylines, but they're kind of interconnected. And then for each character that I designed, each one has a full body, and then a close-up of a face on, and then a 3/4 or a profile view, as well as a close-up of each one of their weapons. And out of the 2 things that I did, the web design and the digital painting, I really enjoyed both of them, but I would say that probably the digital painting is more of my thing, more fun to me, and I'm really hoping to continue with the character design, and I actually have someone who's approached me who wants me to create some more character designs for them for another game called Dungeons and Dragons, so I'm really excited about that. I'll probably start that this summer. And then other than that, I just really want to give a few thanks for mainly my dad. He's the one who really pushed me into graphic design, and he always really supported my art in general. And he's the one who also pushed me into going to Bethany, which I'm really glad about. I'm glad that we made that decision together to come here, because the professors in general are just so awesome, and I feel like I would not have had the same kind of experience somewhere else, and I probably wouldn't have found what I really wanted to do if I had to have like the really individual one-on-one time with my professors, as well as my friends. My friends have always been my #1 supporters when it comes to art, and always coming to the art shows, which is awesome. And then, so I'd like to introduce our next person, which is Karee Dahl. If you've seen any of the Bethany art, the Bethany sports stuff, he's the guy who did it.
Hello, Karee Dahl. I am a super senior here at Bethany, so they're finally going to get rid of me this year, so I'm happy about that. My journey at Bethany started a long time ago, and when I came here, I thought I was going to go into videography and go into broadcasting, but as my journey went along, that was not the case. So a few weeks ago, I was trying to decide, well, listening to everyone else in this group, they had all talked about how they had started their journey when they were children, and they knew that they wanted to be a designer or a painter. I thought, I only played sports, I had no interest in art. What did I do when I was younger that led me here? But my dad called me and he said, I found your drawing book from when you were in like 2nd grade. He said, I found your drawings of shoes. I don't remember doing that. I guess I used to draw sports shoes, and that doesn't lead anywhere to where I am now, but I thought that was interesting. I thought that was interesting that I did have a little interest in art when I was younger. So I grew up in Albert Lee, Minnesota, not too far from here, and when I came to Bethany, like I said, I wanted to go into broadcasting. So I spent my first 2.5 years going into broadcasting and learning about cameras and everything that goes into production. We had a great staff here, and my professor came from ESPN, and I thought, wow, maybe I'll work at ESPN and go into broadcasting. 2.5 years down the road, I'm sitting at home. I was not in school. I was hospitalized my sophomore year. And I was sitting at home, and someone sent me a picture in Amanda Quist's class. And she was showing off one of my graphics I made my freshman year. And I thought, wow, that must be half decent if Amanda's showing it. So from there, I kind of took that on and thought, maybe I have a knack for graphic design. So the following year, in our hockey broadcast, I decided to help make our game day post. And so I had someone sit down and try to help me do this. I had never used Photoshop or anything. And she had to help me make a gradient, which is super simple, and I was really struggling, but I made something and they used it. And I was super happy about it because they used it for the whole year, and everyone on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram got to see it. And I showed it off to a lot of people, and I know they didn't care, but I wanted to show them. So when I was thinking about how I got into design, I remember being in high school, and my two friends are artists, and they make music, and I made an album art for them on paint. And I thought how far I had come from using paint. So that was quite the contrast, just from knowing how much I had grown within that short amount of time. So the following year, my super junior year, for hockey, I was trying to think of what I wanted to do and to branch out to further my career. So I made something called the Mav board, which we would show in the arena, and we would show off people's tweets and pictures from the game. And I ripped it off of another thing called Pagboard, but they're not going to sue me, so it's fine. All the designs were my own, and I made everything, and we got to use it in the arena, and people ended up loving it. And when I wasn't there for game days, when I had tennis, people were messaging our Twitter account saying, why aren't our pictures going up on the board? Sorry, I'm not there, I can't do it. So that turned out really well, and that was another segue into last year, where I made myself a title called Digital Manager for Maverick Hockey Weekend. And I made myself in charge of everything graphic related that went on all our social platforms. And I really wanted to own the fact that I made everything. I didn't want anyone else to make anything that went on that, because I didn't want it to tarnish what I had made. So I spent the preseason building game day graphics and different templates for that season. So you can see in the back there, I made a Player of the Week graphic, and to the left, there's a Nicole Baker graphic and a Tournament Champions graphic. The Mavericks recently were named WCHA Tournament Champions for that game, and it was a thriller, and I was really nervous that I wasn't going to get to show my graphic that I made. And they were losing in the third period, and they came back and won. Thank you, I can post my graphic. So it was really fun to see it posted online, and through Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, I think it reached over 500,000 people. So just the magnitude that that's able to get up to is something that really drew me into the social media side as well as graphic design. And last August, I was told that there was an opening at Bethany for an internship with athletics. And me being into graphics, I emailed him and said, I want this, can I do this, can I meet you? And so we talked, and he wasn't really sure who I was, and I don't have a ton of experience at this point. And so he hired me, and I started, and within the first week, he was like, all right, you're good, don't talk to me, just get your work done. So that was another way I was able to balance time between doing Bethany artwork, Maverick Hockey Weekend, school, and tennis. And through 15 teams at Bethany, it was really a challenge to try and make things for every game day and have post-game graphics ready. And my roommates would see me staying up in my room late, and I was like, no, I can't go to sleep yet, I gotta make graphics. And so it was another way to further my skills by looking at other designers online, Twitter, Instagram, seeing other designers who were better than me and lowering my self-esteem at times, thinking I'm never gonna be that good. But I can see throughout just the last year how much I've grown as a designer. And every time I make something, I show my roommates, and I know they don't care, but I want to show it because I made it. So it's been fun. Thank you for doing that, Dahl. So through those two things at Bethany, I formed my capstone. It wasn't a whole project that I just made up. I figured I was doing those two things anyway. Why not show them off in a physical presence, which is really weird for being a designer when I normally just show things online, so this is not my normal arena. So from being at Bethany, I think that if I would have gone anywhere else, I don't think I would have grown to be the person or designer that I am today. Just the relationships from the faculty and just any friends that I've met along the way have led me to where I am. I've had connections with people who I never thought that I would. I came here and Greg Vandermis, one of the heads in the studio, I was very scared to talk to him, and I thought if I just would get myself to go in there and talk to him, I could try to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. So I went in and sat on the couch and we kind of stared at each other awkwardly for a while until we talked, and we've been great friends the last 2 years, and he's helped me along the way. And I remember when I came to Bethany that there's a wall of people who have graduated and went on to work in the professional field, from ESPN to the Vikings to anywhere else. And I thought there's no way that I'll get to do that. That's just for special people. Nobody's going to get to do that. And so last December I decided to take a shot in the dark and reach out to someone with the Timberwolves and ask if I could shadow them and see what they do. And he responded, which was really cool. And I got to go meet their entire creative team. And I thought, well, that was a great experience. That'll be something that'll lead me along the way. And then fast forward to a week ago, and there was a job opportunity, and I applied, and I just heard back that I'll be getting an interview. So it just goes to show the experience that I've gotten at Bethany is unparalleled to anywhere else that I could have gone. And just where it will lead me for when I graduate, I'm really excited to see. So I'd like to thank my parents. They're not here. My mom and dad. They watch that video later. All my friends that I've met at Bethany, all the faculty, Amanda, Andy, Greg, Angie, I'm forgetting a bunch of people, but everyone who I've met who has been willing to talk or meet with me or anything has led me to where I am today, so thank you.
A couple of you talked about how it's interesting and fun to know that your work is going to be seen by lots of people. When you're making something, is that something that's in the back of your mind that there are lots of people who are going to see this and it makes it nervous? That's something you register.
I think specifically for my line of work, or when I make things that I know that they're going to be online, it's hard to look at things 10 times, even though I know everything's right before I post it, because I know once there's a flaw in it, someone's going to notice and I'm going to hear about it. So it's really hard and kind of nerve-wracking to have things go out to the public, but I think that's also the best part of it, knowing that people will see what you've done and you can be proud of it and know that people appreciate it too, just as much as you appreciate making it. So I think that creating it on your computer and then being able to appreciate it in public or anywhere else is something that's really cool.
I am always terrified at the prospect of other people seeing my work. I mean, it puts you in a very vulnerable position, because this is something that you've worked on and you put your all into, and people are going to see it. People are going to judge it, good or bad. I think it does help. I have to remind myself a lot of times that, obviously you know what it was supposed to look like, but other people see it and they just see the final outcome. They don't see what was in your head, so they're just impressed by what they see. Of course, unless you really botched something, somebody who designed role, then other designers will at least know. But, yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, with graphic design, it's really interesting because every piece is basically a commission in some way. You're always working with somebody who has given you this project, and so you're always working with somebody, you're always thinking about that audience, so you have to meet, it's not only just expressing yourself in one way, but you're also having to represent another person and think of the audience and the final thing. So yeah, like what Carter was saying, where it's just kind of nerve-wracking, you're looking over everything 100 times, so you're like, okay, well, I think it's okay, but are they going to think it's okay? Is this person thinking okay? And you have to kind of adjust it to make everybody happy, but it's a really fun, creative process to be a part of, I think.
So not only do you have to satisfy yourself in what you do, but in design and photography too, if you're working for a client, you have to do what they want. And Are you okay with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the project, but that's kind of what you're doing. You're working for somebody. And so it's cool when, I mean, there's obviously like good client, like designer relationships, and there's bad ones. It's nice when you're able to express yourself through it. Like I think of my time with Speechless, it wasn't like you have to do this. It was awesome. They gave me a lot of free reign to like make it how I wanted to make it, but I had to work within the existing like brand and style. Like you want to honor that. I like to work with people that have gone before you and stuff like that. But it's fun too when you can have creative freedom to branch out a little bit.
I guess for me, it's kind of like, it's almost easier if someone's giving you at least a little bit of direction, because sometimes if you're doing something for yourself, you have limitless like opportunities, and it's like, okay, but which one thing do I go with? So if somebody is like actually paying you and giving you some guidelines, it can actually be helpful in some ways.
I know, I mean, not from personal experience, but I've heard from people who have had personal experience that it can be challenging sometimes, because sometimes there's, you know, the person you're working for might not necessarily have an eye for design, but they're still very stuck on what they want. And you just kind of have to swallow it and just do it for them, because they won't take anything else. So.
Carter touched on it a little bit, but if you had the dream job that God would give you in a month and a half when you graduate, what are your plans?
So I hope eventually to open my own studio. That definitely will not happen in a month and a half. But to definitely start out, like I do have a job already lined up for this summer, and I'll be taking portraits of church directories and of course just for the families and stuff like that, and selling based on commissions. So I feel like that's a good starting point. But yeah, the dream job is definitely to open my own studio and be able to like have income through that. So.
For me, I'm definitely not 100% sure on what I want to do, but I already kind of mentioned this summer I do plan on continuing doing some more character design kind of things from somebody I know, and then also maybe branching out to look for stuff online to do some freelance and just kind of see where that leads me.
I'm not entirely sure myself either. I've kind of always been fascinated by wine labels and the branding for those things. So I kind of think that might be something that I'd like to look into a little bit more.
Yeah, I would just love to be a part of a group or a company that is passionate about what they do. It'd be awesome if faith was a part of it, because that's such an integral part of like who I am. But I'm just really excited to see what that turns out to be. So if someone is excited about making stuff, that's what I want to be.
Especially with like photos and that kind of thing. How difficult was it to, once you were putting together, to figure out, okay, what is this particular word? How difficult was that to come up with which word was what? Because I know from my own experience that that is one of the most hard things in the world. Okay, this word is this, so I know it's that.
Yeah, so like if you ask me any bird questions, I cannot give you a lot of the answers. I'm not a bird expert by any means. The one that, like, a lot of them are generic. I mean, you can tell that they're geese and ducks and the bald eagle. But the western monarch is definitely the one that I had difficulty of identifying. It's definitely a bird that I haven't encountered, and if I have, I haven't known it. And when it came to figuring out what it was, I kind of, like, my phone has this app where I can take a picture and it will tell me, like, but two things came up. It was either an eastern meadowlark or it's a western meadowlark. And they looked the exact same. So I basically had to go to, like, okay, where are their regions? And I was able to settle on comfortably that it was the western meadowlark, because the eastern does not come to as far, you know, west as the western does.
Talk about technology a little bit. Everything you're doing here depends on a machine at some point or another. So what do you say to somebody who says, well, you just got a machine that doesn't work for you? How hard is that?
Well, for me, it's like, do I want to spend 8 hours editing a photo, or do I want to spend like an hour editing the photo? So it's like, I either have to set up my camera in a way to like get the closest thing as I want to the shot. So again, I don't have to spend 8 hours just like looking at this one picture, just making sure it's like perfect.
I think it definitely can for some things, and you can make some pretty basic things just by having a computer and Photoshop. But I think a lot of it for us is we're creatives, and we have a drive to make original and great things out of our work. And there's a certain way that we create that's different than just someone sitting down and putting boxes in a Photoshop artboard. And so I think that's what would set us apart from someone who just has a computer.
First of all, how dare you? I think that even though, like, yes, there are plenty of pros to technology, it's still something that, number one, you have to put a lot of time into learning it and learning how to use it properly. And then even after that, it's still, all the rules of art, so to speak, are still something that you have to apply to this new medium. And yeah.
I think too, a computer is only going to do what you tell it to do. So you need to know what to tell it to do if you can make it look good. And I think that just comes back to people being like, oh, can you just like quick make this for me? Like it'll take like 2 minutes, and I won't pay you, but it'll be fun. Like you like to do that. Like no, this is a thing. Like the skill you have to learn, you have to practice, and it's hard. But the better you get at something, the faster you can do it. And yeah.